All right. Week 2, what we can learn from NBA playoff basketball. Edward LeBlanc, Tyler Costin. All right, Edward, what are you feeling?
Man, there's a lot. I have a lot of notes. Um, I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. I think the first one I'll start with is, I get all the time, I'm sure you do too. Why do you love the NBA so much above college? College is so much better, all that stuff. And there's a lot of reasons, but one of the ones I really took away, and this is, people are like, oh, the NBA is positionless basketball. Okay, but I watched the other night. I watched Bam Adebayo bring the ball up to initiate an offense,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not positionless as much as it is talent and ability dictate their actions and their
Mm-hmm.
sets.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need just because someone's the smallest person bringing the ball up to start the offense and finding a way 3 possessions or passes later before something gets messed up to get back into action. They just have concepts and actions that are dictated by talent. Um, and you know, so that was just struck by that, and I see it a lot in the NBA in a lot of ways. I mean, they've really just blown off the borders and traditional thinking in those areas. So that's one big takeaway for me.
Yeah. Okay. I was on with a high school coach I'm working with earlier this week, and he was asking questions about the race in space, and he said he messed up last year. He's like, as I'm going through this course, he's like, I messed up last year. He said on offense, I just ran a European ball screen continuity offense. He's like, and we couldn't score, and it was just blown up, blown up. And he said, I've realized now the reason we couldn't score is I liked that offense, and so we ran it. As opposed to what do we have, talent and ability, and how do
Mm-hmm.
we maximize it? And like
Mm-hmm.
that perception is as well one of the reasons. One of the reasons I love the NBA is because at the high school level and even the college level, coaches either like a system or they feel comfortable teaching a thing, and that's what they're going to teach, and you fit into it. And that's why you are always going to be capped, coach, if you're just tied to a certain system, regardless of what you have. Whereas the coaches that maximize their talent and ability adapt to that. So yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that more and more at the highest levels, and we're on a mission to try to filter it down to every other level.
Yeah. For our listeners, Tyler must have a camera inside my house because on my notes right here, I actually have high school and college systems completely lower your ceiling, and
Yes.
and and that's why the NBA's floor is even higher than most people's ceilings is because of their mindset and approach towards it. Right, like just defensively here, I have this note down. Defensively, they guard and defend skill sets, not positions. Perfect example. The other night in crunch time, Kevin Durant is guarding Westbrook. So why is that important? Well, it's important because Westbrook's not a shooter, right? So they have Durant play 3 steps off him to take away his main skill of attacking and getting downhill, but still having the link to contest and deter a shot. They were before you have to go for fakes, right? And then the switch of that was they had Chris Paul and Batum. So you think, okay, well, what's the mismatch? Well, if they're going to post Batum, which is not in their offense, Phoenix takes that as a win. That's a possession that's a win,
Mhm.
right? So, and they have it on a bunch of different things. So I'm like, again, back to the NBA, just having a clear vision of what they're trying to do, and the traditional way of basketball is not factored into that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, and you can apply this to yourself when you're teaching defense, yourself coaches, when you're teaching defense, move away from defense as a spot on the floor or
Mm-hmm.
defense as a position or defense as we always do this, and move towards teaching reads, right? How
100%.
how strengths and weaknesses. It's as simple as this: identify opponent's strength and take it away.
That's it.
Identify opponent's weakness and force them to do it.
Make them
That,
do it.
that's it. That's all you
That's
got to
it.
do.
Yeah, and coaches that hear that, you just heard Tyler say that, and I guarantee most of you go, I do that. We're talking about staying with it, right? Because understand that basketball is math. I see this all the time in high school and college basketball, all the time. We're going in, we're going to let 22 shoot, we're going to double off of 22. He or she makes one of their first 3 or 4 shots, coach gets nervous. They make their second now, 2 of 5, 2 of 6. All of a sudden, our game plan's gone. Right now, we're starting to react to something we were okay with out of the moment. Right, not emotional about it, not feeling the energy of a gym, and then we start to react. It's really hard to recover from that, and for your players that you've been telling all week, this is how we win, and then they see you start to lose confidence in how we win. It's really hard to recover from that. So you kind of got to live by it. You kind of got to live by it.
Mhm. Hey, well, let me ask you this: Did you watch the Lakers Grizzlies game?
I did.
All right, and so you obviously saw Dylan Brooks like chirping at LeBron, making threes over LeBron, like getting his face, and like that really was what decided the game. Like Lakers are trying to make a late run. LeBron basically gives him 3 dare shots in a row. Brooks makes them, and the game's over. Right?
Over.
Basketball is math, though. Like I'm not saying LeBron couldn't have given more effort. I'm not saying whatever. I'm just saying that was a choice. That was a choice. It's like, okay, we're losing. We have to get stops and we have to end this possession. Memphis gets some pretty good stuff. Like their best stuff is probably Jaren Jackson going to the rim. Best stuff is getting a high ball screen. Okay,
Right.
well, I'm just going to take that away. LeBron squeezes down on Jaren Jackson's roll and dares Dylan Brooks to make a 3. He's not a great 3-point shooter, blah, blah, blah. If he misses, it ends the possession. They have a chance. If he makes it, the game's over. Well, let's just do the math. That's probably the best defensively, it's the best option for us. And so but that's the type of stuff where a system coach would be like screaming, close out, right? And so it just goes to show the different approach. And you can lose with the right approach. You can lose a good bet. Just make better bets.
That's so true. That's so true because you can't. Coaches hear this. You cannot defend everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't defend everything, and you just got to define what the critical stuff is, and that's the one you got to take away.
Mm-hmm.
While we're kind of still on that, I kind of glossed over that Westbrook Durant matchup. I'm going to go to Westbrook real quick for a second. There's a lot out there with him with the shooting and all that, and that is what it is. But I had this note down. It's so important for high school players, coaches.
Yep.
The night that game 1, he shot really poorly.
Mm-hmm.
He also had the biggest presence in the game of anyone.
Yep.
Anyone. And players, coaches, if you could get your players to have the memory of Russell Westbrook. I watch high school kids. I'm going to have some in the gym today. They will miss a shot and their energy drops and their next. I mean, for better or worse, Westbrook's mindset is next, right? Misses a horrible shot, takes a horrible shot, whatever. Next play, he's running down behind somebody getting a steal. He's diving out of bounds for a loose ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a lot to learn from a guy like that. I mean, that's just flat want to now.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually feel like he had a bigger. I mean, you look at a skill set like Devin Booker down the stretch of game 1. He had a bigger impact on the game than Devin Booker did. And so why and how? And so I think for coaches, what do you do about that? How do you foster that? You reward it. I think too often we'll have a player that is very skilled and can shoot, but isn't next play mentality, doesn't have that want to on defense, and yet will pull the kid that's working hard because they're missing a shot. Whereas we like give a longer chain to the kid that isn't working hard because they can make a shot. You are outcome based here. I've been talking about this a lot recently, but like as a coach building a program, you've got 4 steps in your process to build a program: your roots, your trunk, your branches, and then your fruit. Okay. Right. If you're just trying to pluck fruit, if you're just looking at the outcomes, right? Well, then you're gonna make wrong decisions. But what are you rooted in? Like, what's your why? What do you believe? Therefore, what's your trunk? What's your standards and your culture, right? Then what are your systems out of that? And then that develops the fruit. And if you're just constantly plucking fruit, every single year, you're going to be working real hard to plant a new crop. But if you tend the orchard, then year after year, this is how we play. Oh man, that fruit is coming full and plentiful.
Well, think about that analogy. You can talk about plucking fruit all you want, but a squirrel can knock off fruit. The wind can move fruit.
Yeah.
But tree systems lasts through hurricanes and tornadoes.
It's good. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you
Yep.
can shed leaves and branches and all that all you want, but it all comes back. That can change.
Yeah.
So this may be a whole different podcast we need to do. So one of my first notes of the first night of playoffs is playoff intensity is just different.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel it through the TV. Would you agree with that? Have you noticed that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. I mean, it's obvious why that is, right? You want to win a championship. But I went down this rabbit hole in my mind here, Tyler, is they know it's only a 28 game max. If every series went 7, it's 28 game max, right? Those guys can get their mind and body around, I can lay it all out for 28 games.
Mm-hmm.
I can lay it all out for 28 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you really think about it, these 28 games are getting you into the hundreds after the 82, after the preseason games, all the stuff, not to mention travel flights,
Right.
Whatever. So here's my note for the high school coaches who listen to this. If you raise like the NBA does in playoffs, but they do this year round, if you raise just your urgency accompanied with precision, everything can change.
Yeah.
Everything can change. And here's what I find interesting. I don't know when a high school kid really is urgent because they play so much basketball, right? So that you're 28. If you think about your high school season, you're getting no more than 28 games. That's your playoffs, right? As a high school coach, you're not getting more than 28 games. But those kids have already played so many games that allegedly mean so much with exposure and all this other stuff that they don't have the tank to give that. Like when is a high school player intense? Like I don't know it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know if they play in the big playoff game, but other than that, I don't see it enough. It's not a skill they have.
And I think like that's a skill that needs to be trained as much or more so than all the other skills. I mean, like what's the lens and what's the demand? I'm working with a girl right now, senior in high school now, but is signed to play at Utah State next year. She's going to be a freshman at Utah State. 6'5", skilled, big body. Doesn't yet have the skill of playing hard. Doesn't have the skill of moving hard. So all we're working on is like, can you do this lower? Can you do this with a little more force? Like, can you jump higher to rebound this ball? Like, instead of the habit of minimum effort to get the job done, establish the habit of maximum effort in everything that you do. And like that's a skill. And honestly, I think it's one of the biggest skills that most players need when they level up. Like they're about to get smashed in the face with the requirement because they've always been better. Then all of a sudden, how do you be better than everybody else that's always been better? Like all of a sudden, it's like that's why people are in the transfer portal because they got smashed in the face. They're like, "Oh, I'm better than them." Yeah, but you don't play harder consistently.
Well, I mean, how many people are sitting behind Russell Westbrook that shoot better than him?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You don't play harder.
You don't play harder.
You don't play harder.
All right. What's your next note?
You're gonna love this one. I don't know if you agree with this or not. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I wrote it down twice, so it must mean there are very few NBA sets that NCAA and probably even high school teams couldn't run.
Oh, okay. Let me think about this. There are very few NBA sets that college and high school teams could not run.
Yeah, they can do all that.
Agreed. It's not going to look the same, but yeah, it's absolutely agreed. The defense isn't the same either.
No.
Yeah.
But the simplification of it, and again, this is one of my first notes of how important role players are because it sets a pecking order. Do you think it sets you up more for success? It raises your floor, doesn't lower your ceiling by having role players. And if you have players on the floor that have clear definition to 2 to 3 things they're trying to do and not give up, it sets everything else up for you, right? Like, who's the guy, Reeves, for the Lakers?
Oh, I love his game.
Yeah, but the truth is he's just a role player. But the game, again, just the way it moves and how fluid it is, he's going to be put in position where it looked like he's the star that night. All he's doing is executing on his role when it's time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but if he goes out and tries to do too much,
he gets to play an advantage game most of the time. That's why he's
an advantage finisher. He's an advantage finisher.
Yeah.
Or a keeper. He never is a creator.
Right. Right. And okay. Yes. So okay, I won't move on yet. So I would say yes. And here is 3 things that I think most coaches should do to run NBA sets more. Thing number one, just allow players to stand still in space.
Oh goodness.
Right? I mean, just like the useless movement at the high school level actually steals your space. So that's number one. Go ahead. You have something on that one?
No, just to laminate it. I have here the use of the short corner and corners is the reason everything works in the NBA.
Yep. And most coaches allow their players to creep towards the ball, creep inside the arc. No, just space and breathe. Know when it's not your turn. And so a teaching a piece of language that I use is don't move if the ball can't see you. Right? Like if the ball handler isn't looking at you, all your movement is wasted. There's no way you're getting it. So if the ball's not looking for you, just stand in space. You get unlocked when the ball sees you. Okay, here's the second thing that I think all coaches can apply immediately. Only run 2 and 3 player actions, not 5 player actions.
Say that again. I need to hear that.
Only run 2 and 3 player actions, not 5 player actions. It blows my mind that at the lower levels you're trying to get this 5 player action simultaneously. Well, we need this side of the floor doing this at the same time. What? No. Okay, just focus on 2 or 3 players doing an action, and that's how you can do it quicker.
Coaches don't even take a step back and realize they'll tell you in one breath that a player is very limited. Okay, that's okay. That's supposed to be in high school, right? That's okay. But he or she is very limited. All the while telling you that same player can be a part of a 5-player action to where they have to screen, space, reassess, move, get out of the way, move a ball, hand off. Like, so they're limited skill wise, but they're extremely advanced in actions and memorization and you know feel.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So good. So
yeah.
good.
So coaches, with that, just start accepting and leaning into the principle of gravity right now. Everybody on your team has an ability to be dangerous. And if you don't think they do, put them in the short corner right by the rim and see what happens. And just have action rotate around them. Have action orbit around their gravity. And it's very simple. They catch and finish. They catch and move the ball. The end.
Yep.
The end.
The end. Okay, here's the last observation. Even the best players in the world are worse at isolation. I mean, it's painful to watch a possession devolve into Anthony Davis isolating, LeBron James. They're the best in the world, and it's their lowest efficiency stuff. So what do you take away from that? You should not play in isolation. Your player should not play in isolation. You should not play in isolation. I mean, unless there's a gross mismatch, which I can't see high school teams getting into very well anyway. I mean, stop playing in isolation. Play out of advantage.
Basketball is math. It's just math, and this is going to come off strong, but isolation is just lazy.
Yeah,
it's just lazy. And especially when you isolate to a 1-4 flat, like most of them are. I mean, at least isolate off of action, right? Run action till you get an isolation that you want to attack with immediately. But again, you can't believe two things. There's a lot of basketball beliefs that just conflict and go head on with each other that coaches know they know, but then they have the actions that show they don't actually believe that, right? And isolation basketball is one of them, because if it's run well defensively, the ball's going to end up in the hand of the shooter you don't want. I mean, that's right. And here's the last one I have, Tyler. And I just don't understand this, and I know there's an answer for it, but I haven't heard one that makes me switch it yet. Why are we picking the ball up so high?
Defensively.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's do this. This will be fun. I will give you reasons why I think we either should or why people do pick the ball up high. Then you can combat it. Does that feel good?
Let's do it.
Okay. I'll do one at a time. We want to take time off the clock. We're going to try to take time off the shot clock.
You're talking NBA right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or any level. Yeah.
Well, there's a difference in timing, but I guess it's still sure. I guess it's still relative. I would like to see the numbers on how many shots are taken under 5 seconds in a shot clock for each team, because that's all you're buying.
Mm-hmm. I would as well. And I think that argument I'd made is probably most relevant at the NBA level, at the 24-second shot clock piece. Okay, here's the next one. I want to try to force turnovers. I want to try to.
You're not against a good team. You're not.
Okay, I want to tire out the other team's best player or point guard by making them work to bring it up.
Yes, but you're tiring out your own guy as well. That's all game opposites.
It is. I like being aggressive, and it makes us aggressive and hard nosed, and like we pick up 94 feet because we're real physical.
I believe that the coaches believe that, but there's probably no stats for that.
Okay,
look, picking up 94 feet is the equivalent of a slapping the floor defense. Picking up 94 feet is the equivalent of saying that press didn't beat us. We didn't even turn the ball over in the press. The press didn't bother us. No, it didn't, but you also took very quick threes with people that weren't supposed to take them. You didn't take advantage of mismatch, and you didn't get the bonus once. You get the bonus once because your offense was sped up. So a press has an effect that is not necessarily tangible, right? Just like picking up has an effect that's not necessarily tangible, right? They picked up Chris Paul the other night 6 times in a row high. All they did was come set a screen with Ayton, a flat screen in the middle of the floor, and 6 straight possessions. They got every shot they wanted and or fouls. Mm-hmm. And then they had to stop doing it. I'm like, I just think who it's going to affect, you're going to probably beat them anyway. They have other deficiencies, because that's a very basic thing to be able to handle, is manned up pressure from a high-level point guard, whether it be college or pro. And if that can affect you, I think you're going to have other ways you can affect them while bringing in the half-court line and then constricting space, right? Because
so you like constricting space once the ball crosses half, not above it.
Yeah. Yes, because again, it's one of the conflicting beliefs, which is if you believe that space is oxygen for offense, mm-hmm. and you pick up at 80 feet,
you're giving that ball handler more space to beat you.
Yeah, and you're creating rotations earlier and longer and more of them. I'm not saying it doesn't have a place. I definitely mm-hmm. think it has a place as a tactic. Hey, we're going to out of this timeout. Hey, after, we're down. We're going to surprise them and pick up, whatever. But, look, the NBA doesn't do a lot, but college coaches do a lot. And they do a lot of what you said. We're hard-nosed. Our identity is defense. We get in you. And, I was helping a coach the other night, a college coach, and that's their identity is defense. And the same thing, they pick up high. And they did not get one turnover. Not one.
Yeah.
Ball got pitched up. They're playing out of it. They're getting, multiple shots. A lot of times the point guard's the one receiving the ball back but it's their identity.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's where I would land on this. And specifically like what we teach in the lock left. So our goal above the timeline or across the half court line is not to pressure. It is just to channel, to make sure that the ball crosses for us on the left-hand side of the floor, but the one side of the floor so that we start to constrict space.
Yep.
That's what we call start it left, which is very different than I think what you're describing, which is pressure, turn, stop, maybe steal. Okay. Like we're like jogging along on the right side of them, just trying to get them to go left first. Then once they cross the timeline, I think we're in agreement here. That's when we start to try to speed the ball up left a little bit. It's on the left-hand side. It's near the left sideline. We're able to shrink the space. We've overloaded on the weak side, all this stuff. We're sitting heavy in the gap, right? Now we want to try to take the ball to jail being the left corner, again, to constrict space. So, we're sitting heavy in the gap. So we get another swing up to the left wing, up to the left sideline, left corner. So now we can really overload. Like the goal is to start speed and lock the ball left in jail in the left corner, which I think is very different than what you're describing, which is like we're trying to pick up and pressure. So I think that playing basketball game of opposites, we're trying to play the space game. Offense wants space, defense wants less space. And so if that is your goal, as opposed to pressure, I think that's a good goal.
No, I agree. And what you're describing is the start of a defensive system that requires you to steer the ball to starting in a certain spot or area because if it does, it short circuits your system.
Exactly.
That's different than when you watch someone pick up at the other free throw line and before they get to the other timeline, they turn their hips 3 different times.
Right. And that's 3 times you can get beat.
It doesn't make any sense. To what end? They're airing the ball in the middle. They're airing it to the high post. They're getting screened off of it. They're airing it to the right. They're airing it to the left.
And your defense behind the ball is then confused and constantly adjusting. Like we want to be able to build a wall behind the ball, build a wall to keep the ball on one side of the floor.
It should be a hedged bet. If my team is going to pick up the ball anywhere on the other side of half court, I should be able to, within pretty certainty, say where the ball is coming.
Yeah.
I should, if at a minimum, I should just be able to tell you where it's not going.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
Yeah. I think that philosophy can really help coaches. Okay, let's go here. Finish up speed round. I'll ask you a question. You ask me a question. All right, here's speed round. Was Draymond justified in stomping on Domantas Sabonis' chest?
Hard to say. Hard to say. I just if he doesn't grab his leg, none of it happens.
Right. Do you think do you think he should have been suspended?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. I think you either suspended both or neither. On that one, for sure. Go ahead.
Do the Warriors use Clay enough?
No.
Okay, go. You ask me. Go. You say speed round.
Yeah, you're right. That was good. Who wins Warriors Kings series?
Oh, you put me in a headlock. I can't say the Kings. I just can't. Even though I think they actually might.
I'm there. I can go there now. I'm saying the Kings.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I just can't say that.
I get it. Assuming Kings Lakers win, who wins? Kings Lakers.
The Kings are a awful matchup for the Lakers. There's too much youth.
Lakers. I think
they
the
beat
Kings
them bad,
are in the
actually.
Western Conference Finals.
I actually think they beat them bad.
I think they beat them bad. Just the speed they play with. The Lakers do not defend well in transition. They don't defend speed and athleticism well. They just want to grind it out.
With what we're seeing right now, do you think the winner of the Suns Clippers is actually in the finals? They actually win the West. The winner of that series wins the West. Okay, who does win the West? Because what you're saying is either Denver or Sacramento win the West.
I am.
And Denver's not winning the West.
I think the Kings win the West, right? Of all the teams
all right.
Of all the teams that I've watched right now, I know I enjoy watching the Kings play the most. Of all the teams I've watched.
That's different. That's different. All right, for all of our viewers here, we've gone into the silly part of the day. I enjoy watching them too, but it's not. I mean, by the way, I don't know if I've ever seen a team. The Warriors put them in the bonus in the third quarter with 10 minutes and 18 seconds to go. I've never seen that before. I didn't know that was possible.
I have never seen a championship team like the Warriors make as many stupid mistakes as they do.
The problem though is
passes,
Sacramento
fouls.
I know Sacramento can do to them what they do to us. That death lineup doesn't work on Sacramento because they go small, right? As long as the bonus is in there as their 5, quote unquote, but so they can do it, and they're hyper aggressive on offense.
Yep, De'Aaron Fox is my second favorite player right now. I just love the pace that he plays with.
Who's your favorite?
I'm embarrassed to say Luka Doncic is still my favorite player to watch.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Okay.
All right, speed round continues. Couple more.
Who wins Knicks, Cavs?
Cavs. What do you think?
That was quick. Knicks.
Okay, I like it. All right.
Boston or Milwaukee?
Milwaukee. I just feel like they have the best single player.
I agree. Okay, I'm gonna ask you one more, then you can go to me.
Okay.
Give me a star player that will not be on the same team he's on right now when the year starts next year, and then who would be where you'd like to see?
Well, I'll do an easy one first. Kyrie Irving.
He's not a star player, so keep going.
He is a star player.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right, you ready? Here it is. Damian Lillard.
I think so too. Where?
Miami. You think?
I think I agree with that 100%. I think they have to. because their
They have
ceiling is they're at their ceiling and they're working really hard to stay there.
yeah. I don't know how they get there. I don't know how Miami gets there, um, except for cap space. You know, like you offload Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love, and you know what I mean. And then I don't think they have enough draft picks available. Maybe they got to go far, far out, but they give them everything for Lillard. And if you can keep Butler, Bam, and Lillard,
It's
you
enough.
give
It's got to
everything
be
else.
enough. It's got to be
Yeah,
enough. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
Robinson's gone. Hero's gone. Those are both big
yeah.
contracts.
I mean,
But it just
they could put Hero in there. That might be
you have
attractive
to.
for them,
You're gonna have to. You're gonna have
right?
to.
Yeah.
You're
So
gonna have
you
to.
go like Lowry, Hero, Love, and 3 first rounders, something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but it just shows though, right? Like it just shows you will never in a trade get return value on a star.
Never.
Ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you better keep them
Look,
happy. All right. Well, I feel like that's some good stuff. All right. So we'll get this published out. I'm Tyler. That's Edward. Edward, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
courtsessions.com. All of our stuff's there. Yeah, you can email me. You can all the other ways to get in touch with people are on there.
Awesome, man. We'll look forward to talking next time. Let me stop this recording here real quick.
Yep.